Let me know when. Hi, everybody. This is the June 8th, 2023 meeting of the Master Plan Implementation Committee. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to take a roll call of who's on the call today. This meeting is both in person and Zoom. And because the townhouse was locked, we're meeting tonight all remotely. And how do I take a roll call?
All the names.
Just call names?
You just call names and we say we're here.
Okay, Kat McKee.
Here.
Will Warren.
Here.
Judith Watson. You're on mute.
Here.
Thank you. Sam Stivers.
Here.
And Debbie Demuria, I'm here. Okay, starting the meeting tonight at 7:27. Okay, well, I'm glad we're all together. I think that it's been a little time since we've all met. The first item on the agenda, well, first it's something administrative. Just to make note that the last meeting that we held on May 5th, I failed to call a roll call at the beginning of the meeting. So we just wanted to make that note. So the first item, last time we had gotten together, we thought that this would be a good time to send a standard communication to all boards and committees and departments. Now that we as liaisons have met with everybody, reached out, some of us have dropped into meetings, talked to coordinators, talked one-on-one. I feel like each of our boards, committees, and departments know they have goals and recommendations and are in various stages, some getting organized and some are very organized. And we thought that we would talk about communicating now a little bit more formally and sending out a standard message to each of our groups. And I know that we were going to talk about, what would be in that message tonight. And just wanted to see if you guys have any discussion. Or Kat, I know you were going to do some thinking about it, if you thought about what the message might contain.
Yes, I apologize to the group. I was supposed to draft something for us to respond to, and I just couldn't make the time to make that happen. So I'm happy to talk through it, but I don't have a draft for us to respond to. But I believe, Judith, you recirculated talking points, so that might be a good place to.
Yeah, I mean, that was my suggestion, is to, rather than reinvent the wheel, we just look at the talking points and say, is there anything in there that we don't want to share? Is there anything not in there that we do want to add to it?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Does
I
someone-
liked it. I read it, looked good to me.
Let's see. I can pull it up and share the screen if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It might
Right.
be challenging for me to do. Let's see.
I have
I
it
particularly liked it.
hand
because
as well,
it is
Kat,
in-
if you need me to open it.
Well, I've got it up. I just want to make sure I can take minutes at the same time. So you guys should be seeing. Do you see a picture of the townhouse?
Yep.
You do not?
Yes.
Yeah,
You do.
please, yeah.
Okay, great. So you're seeing the screen. Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. So we'll scroll down.
Judith, I particularly liked this one because Lisa's name was still on all the stuff I'm supposed to do. So that was excellent drafting.
Actually, speaking of Lisa's name, I noticed the website has not been updated to indicate that Sam Stivers is now the member.
There are a number
Yes.
of things the website is not updated to show, but I'll try to follow up on that one as well.
I stopped in and spoke to Jay, I think last week, and I think that there's a lot of updates that are planned. I think he's also anticipating a new list of folks for some of with the June 30, the folks that are coming in this month, I guess. And I know that's on his list of things to do. I didn't give him specifics, but I don't mind following up, Sam, if you want me to.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. There are not many changes in terms of the committees, there are a few, but not a huge number, so
Okay,
that shouldn't slow him down.
okay.
Okay,
Yeah, how many pages? Oh, this is only a 4-page document. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a great document.
this is a
Judy.
great document.
did a
This
nice
should be
job.
what is used.
Yeah.
This is what happens when Judith isn't there. We all try to do something new that was already created.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah.
Well, there is something new, and I wanted to ask you, I mean, last time we talked about prioritization of goals, and we're going to talk about that as the next agenda item. In our communication, do we want to, just reiterate, the talking points, or do we want to somehow introduce kind of the next wave, which would be, depending on what our outcome is tonight, is maybe trying to get more of an understanding from each of our committees as to what their priorities are.
I mean, I'm not sure I would add that into the talking points because, I mean, the talking points were really designed just to highlight, what we're responsible for, what the committees are responsible for.
I agree,
I think,
Judith.
the prioritization is more, I think, just the working of the process as opposed to something that you would necessarily want to include in kind of a structure document. That's my perspective anyway.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it seems to me, at least, I'm not so focused on asking the committees what they're trying to do as much as trying to drive from the planning board and the select board direction, sort of prioritization in terms of, where the money is going to be, where the primary interest is. But it seems to me we ought to be a catalyst in terms of communicating those kind of priorities and then exerting whatever reasonable pressure we can on the various committees to get in line if they want to get resources and other committees to support to do the things that are high priority for the town in general. So, I mean, it's a delicate balance there. You don't want to discourage people from doing things, but you'd like to be able to shape the direction as opposed to just sort of asking what's going on and reporting it, I would think.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, good. So then what would be the purpose of this communication? Is it sort of, I think we thought, just to sort of formally reach out to let people know, that what Master Plan Implementation Committee is all about, what as it says here, what each group is responsible for. And I do think that we also talked about maybe attaching the copy of our report document that Kat had made for us so that they can see what it is that we'll be filling out when we meet with them. Is that something we'd like to do?
I think we added to the back end of this, so there's only one document. But I like that idea.
Yep, that's a good
Okay.
idea.
Yeah, so this is exactly what we were talking about needing, so I'm glad Judith recirculated it. Thank you.
And again, I see this as the outline, as at least I'm talking with various groups about communicating and reinforcing direction here for people. And then we leave it behind as a reference point. Most of them will probably not read it, but we can refer to it.
Yeah.
Continue to use this as a sort of a benchmark to say, here's what we're trying to accomplish.
And I would again send this to the entire committee, board, or department, whoever. Department might be hard, that might just be a department head, but the committees and boards, I think everybody on the committee and board should get it.
I agree.
I'm
Okay.
also going to include this in the minutes because it's a document that we're referring to, so I'm going to make a note of that.
So, do you want me to create a kind of a updated version? Because I don't think we should include the final section, which is getting started in 2023, because that was very much something for us internally, as opposed to something that I think we need to share with everybody.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
I'll take that section out. I'll add in the progress report.
and Judith, maybe you and I can craft an email together. And I would need I think, I'm not sure if you guys already have lists of all of the names of the people on your committees.
Actually,
Yeah,
if you don't mind me jumping in, that's a really good point. It's about to change. So this probably, it's 6/8 now. I mean, how do we deal with the transition with the new terms and the new people that are coming on board, old people going away, the website getting updated? Because normally we go to the website for this information, right? All the committees are listed clearly there. But since we're kind of in the middle of a change, when is the best time to do this? Because if we do it now, we're going to miss all the new people coming on board. If there are a ton, I don't know if there's new people or if it's just worthwhile doing it now.
Not huge numbers.
Okay.
I think there's value in sort of completeness here and early communication. So my bias would be to send it to the people listed now,
Okay.
and then go back in early July and see if anybody's changed, and circle back and pick up any new players. That's a little extra work, but at least it gets into people's inboxes sooner.
So isn't there, in terms of kind of inclusiveness with making sure we've got all the right people on the right committees, isn't there a standard set of email groups that Vanessa or
Yeah, there's a
someone-
department heads group, and there is a board and committee chair group, I think. But beyond that, I'm not sure there's a easy
Okay.
list for all committee
It
members.
feels like a pretty major task, though, to try and create, because you wouldn't want to send, I mean, I don't think I think sending an email to dozens of people is not, I think it would look a bit clunky.
Yeah, it should be, the liaison should be sending it to their groups, right? One group at a time is what I was thinking. Because we
Yeah.
were talking about how like the relationship building, hey, reminder, I'm your liaison, and this is the document that helps describe what we're doing.
Yeah.
And here's the progress report and stuff like that. And it's, I mean, we each have like 4 or 5, right? So it's not a huge undertaking if we
Yeah.
have an email template to
Mhm.
then go to the website and grab the emails. It's a
Okay.
little bit of work, but
How
Yeah.
about the department head, though? Should we not be communicating with department heads about this as well?
yes, some of us have departments.
Yeah.
I happen to not have departments, but I
don't
think you
either.
might have departments, Sam. So yes, yes.
I don't think I guess facilities I've got, that's the one.
Facilities or DPW?
yeah,
Well,
that's.
we should probably, as well as the boards and commissions, we should probably make sure it goes to everybody that has a copy of the master plan. Because Karina sent it to pretty much everybody, even though they didn't necessarily have, the original intent was just to send it to the people that had responsibility. And I think Karina felt pretty strongly that she wanted it to go to all departments. But I have the list of who it went to in terms of the other departments.
Oh, that'd
What
be a good
if-
start.
What if the talking points and progress report were on the MPIC website also?
Good idea.
That was one of the topics I wanted to bring up on future topics was our website and master plan website and et cetera. I like that idea. Then we can just put the link.
Oh,
I
people
would
link-
I would send a physical document to people
You would,
based on the experience of the last 3 years. People do not follow the links.
Okay,
okay,
I mean, we can do that too, for sure, but I wouldn't rely on everyone following the links and looking at the document.
Yeah.
Let's do both.
Physical attachment in people's inbox, I think, generally gets a better response.
okay. So we're gonna come up with some sort of standard email, but instead of just coming from the chair or coming from the committee, we're going to send it, each of the liaisons then will send it to each of their teams.
Yep.
Their departments and committees, okay. I think that's more personal. I think that's the way they
Mhm.
don't forget about you and me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Judith, you're going to update Lisa's name to my name on the.
Mhm. Sure.
And I was just looking, and I'm sure you guys would have caught this, but I was noticing the frequency, the planning board gets updated. We had talked about last meeting that they only want to get updated 2 times a year. So
Right.
the document should, I guess, reflect that as well. But
Right.
I'm sure you would have flagged that as you were going through the details.
Mhm.
Okay. That sounds good. Do we have a target that we want then to send this out? Next couple weeks, something
Yeah,
like that.
week or
over.
two. max.
I think that might be a good idea if folks had the bandwidth and time to do that, because I believe after July 4th, you may lose a lot of people's attention just for vacations in July and August.
Yeah.
I might be overblowing that, but
Great. So Debbie, I'll reach out to you. Well, let me update the document. I can't update it till early next week, but let me update it early next week, and then you and I can have a quick call to talk about a draft email. So my goal will be to try and get this to everybody by the end of next week.
Good. That
Thank
sounds
you.
great. Thanks, Judith. Okay, well, anything else on this then? Sounds good. I think the committees will appreciate it, because I do know some people have just trouble putting their hands on documents and things, you know, it's just another thing to think about.
indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go on to the next topic. Well, okay, the next one is discussion on prioritization of goals. So we did start this conversation last time. Judith wasn't with us last time. So Mr. Stivers, I wanted to ask if you would just give an update here, at least in terms of your thinking. We did have a preliminary discussion at our last meeting on, was it May 5th? But, you know, can you start us off?
You're assuming I can remember what I said. That's
Yeah.
a high bar. I guess, again, one of my points, I think, was that talking about how you set priorities here, it seems to me that the planning board is driving the process, certainly, but the select board is obviously driving the budget process typically. And so I think you need to align those to make sure that we're all working together in a similar direction for things that actually are likely to be funded going forward. And so my suggestion, I think, was that we sort of go through an initial pass here to figure out where we are with all of these things in terms of progress that's been made and so forth. But then I'd suggested, I think in June sometime, which may be not going to happen now, but to have a joint meeting between the planning board and select board to talk through the prioritization process and see if we can get some broad outlines of what is likely to be supported from a budgetary standpoint and how that fits with what the planning board's view of high level priorities are. And I think I suggested that the list for focus in the near term over FY24 should probably be very narrow, in the sense that you can't accomplish things in 29 different directions. So I think we're much better off focusing on a few things and trying to make some things happen around them versus getting too broadly based. And I think as I've looked at the current summary of all the goals and implementation steps and so forth, I think there's a lot of things that are going to happen anyway here from the committee pressure and other departmental activities and so on and so forth. So I think it's great that there's a lot going on, but I think there are some places, at least in my view, that are going to generate strong support from the select board at least. And I'm assuming planning board will have similar ideas, and it would be great if we could align the two of those and then march forward in more united front here in terms of reinforcing those ideas on various committees and departments that are involved in the process. So I think that's what I said. Is that right, Debbie?
I think that's what you said. I know that the select board is having a goal setting meeting coming up, and I wonder if does this activity have to intersect Next week, okay.
Yeah, I actually don't necessarily think so, in the sense that there are enough goals and implementation steps in the master plan that I think it's unlikely the select board's going to come up with anything that's not fairly well aligned with something in here.
Yeah.
And last year we did it, we wound up, I think, 28 goals that were reasonably well overlaid with things that are in the master plan. And I think our intent for next week presumably is to actually narrow that down substantially and pick a few that we think are, good for focus over the next 12-month time period, while not losing sight of some of the longer term things, but trying to get things done over the next year here. So I think that's, again, the select board's meeting next week, I think, is a good way into the priority setting, because what comes out of there, I think, then gives the select board a starting point for discussion with the planning board to see how we can be aligned there. And I don't know, Debbie, if the planning board is going to have any similar discussion around priorities for these goals. I've not heard much about that. Has that been discussed?
We haven't discussed that. Yeah.
That'd be good to get on an agenda then, to get both groups at least generally aligned if possible, or if we're not aligned, figure out why and deal with it.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we kind of just touched upon, but we didn't really go into, was what do we need to have in advance to drive the conversation at that meeting? Is there some, I think we were talking about an overall kind of a chart of all the goals and recommendations. And
Yep.
I think, Sam, you were mentioning sort of your color bubbles of red, green, and yellow. I mean, some of the committees have things that they want to do, right, but they don't have funding. So
Yep.
it may appear red that they can't do anything, but that
Right.
is something that they definitely want to move on. And I think we were trying to visualize, what can we have in front of us? We can all look at everything to
Yep.
kind of depict, where certain committees need, funding, or they need alignment from select board to make it a go.
But again, I think that drives from what the planning board and the select board want to accomplish. So for example,
Yeah,
if committee
I think
X
this
wants
has to be
do-
more top down. Can
Yeah.
I share something? Can I
Yes.
share?
Are you?
Yeah, sure.
Are you unable to? Do I need to make a co-host?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
I
This is
just made you
co-host.
co-host, so hopefully that will give you what you need.
Okay, let's see. Okay. I didn't have time to send this out, so.
There you go. Okay,
Uh,
you sharing?
Yeah, sharing.
Where do I get this out? Hang this out. Okay. Can everyone see that? It's a bit small,
Yes.
but
A little small.
that better?
Nope,
Change.
still small.
Okay. It's not small on mine.
Can you double?
You can
click
make
on the
your, but
message?
you can make your own, you can make your own screen bigger, Sam.
Okay.
How do we do that? Let's see.
Hit control and then hit the plus sign at the same time.
Yeah.
What part of this do you want to go over, Judith?
View options. at
Yeah,
the
view
top,
options, zoom
preview
ratio, you can do,
Size increase.
yeah.
So I just put this together this afternoon, thinking about how do you even start to think about prioritization? And for me, I think one approach would be to go back to the original master plan and say, if the master plan is focused on delivering the vision, which was Southborough 2030, a great place to live, we had put in this is from chapter 1 of the master plan. We had these key bullet points around how will we know when Southborough is a great place to live. So it's what do we have to achieve to make it a great place to live.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just looked at those kind of themes, if you like, and thought about, well, which are the ones that are most likely to either require capital investment or new operational funding versus well, we just need to do them because, you know, there's a number of things in the master plan that have either already been done or are things that people, you know, the boards and committees already had on their agendas and were covered by the town budget, so they weren't likely to require new funding. And then I just said, well, I went through the goals. There's 39 goals.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pulled out the ones and just grouped them and said, okay, what does it feel? You know, the underlining is basically what are the things that are definitely going to need money and are going to be more challenging to do. And I just pulled them into 3 groups. So connectivity, which is really about, you know, the transportation, the flyovers,
Mm-hmm.
sidewalks, trails, pedestrian access, and the connectivity. That was very much a key theme under the original master plan. And then community, which, you know, this was one of the topics that had so much discussion about the downtown district, growing the community in the villages, but also working on some form of community center, whether it's, you know, whatever form that takes. So really thinking about community. And then I just added, I like 3s and I like the alliteration. So I just call it capacity, which is really about saying, what is it within Southborough that we really need to be investing in? So one is, I think housing always comes up, but also the infrastructure, the vehicle infrastructure, because as the town is growing, you need that infrastructure. And then the final one was just balancing revenue and cost with public services, because that feels like it's always going to be a really key one.
Mm-hmm.
So I just put that out as, if you want to have a conversation to start, then at least, you know, we're not asking people to read 10 objectives, 39 goals and 201 recommendations, because that people can't synthesize that amount of information.
Right.
Right. This is great.
Yeah, that's very good. I actually took a slightly different tack on it, but went back to the original stuff and tried to pull out, based on my understanding of select board conversations over the last months, to put it directly, where's the money going to be? And I think I had a list of actually 4 bullets that I think overlays pretty well with yours. One is housing diversity and affordability. There are a lot of things going on there, and I think for a variety of reasons, we absolutely need to do something in that direction. And I think there are some things that are going to happen there. So that, to me, is a place where there's momentum, and it would be great to be able to reinforce that. Next is the commercial diversity and development, which is tied into the revenue raising, particularly along Route 9. And the third one is I had accessibility / connectivity, because we're doing a number of things with sidewalks and so forth that going to be a fair amount of money dropped on that. And I think, again, anything we can do to reinforce that, make that work better, would be very helpful. And the final one for me is the schools, which is, you know, the 800-pound gorilla kind of thing. I think that's a key asset for the town, and I think that's going to continue to be a place where there's a significant amount of investment. So those are the 4 that popped out to me as I looked at all of the possibilities in here. And I think that overlays reasonably well with what you have there, Judith. So I think that's interesting.
It is interesting. Great minds.
I think it's
So-
reassuring, because it basically says the master plan still has legs.
I
A
think so.
year on,
Maybe-
June the 14th.
maybe a few short legs, but we got legs. But you know, again, I think that that these kinds of directions, looking at it from, you know, different perspectives, gives people at least a good starting point to talk about things. And if somebody says, no, I disagree with this, I think it ought to be something else, that's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
But you know, again, I think that there is, I guess, limited ability. I mean, I'm 1 vote on the select board, and I can push for these things, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of our planning meeting next week. And I think these are going to be strong themes out of that, but I can't predict with 100% certainty. But based
What
on
was
what
the
comes out
second
of it-
one you said? Sam, commercial diversity and
Development.
development.
Yeah, commercial diversity / development,
Okay.
which is sort of revenue, new, better, stronger revenue sources, particularly along the Route 9 corridor.
Okay.
And again, there are things that happen related to that, certainly, and in more detail out of the master plan and elsewhere. But again, that's my best guess is where the money's going to be. And if we want to try to influence that, that's certainly a possibility. But again, my hope tonight was that we get a little more feedback from folks. If there's some different direction, then I've got an opportunity next week to weigh in and say, wait a minute, guys, the Master Plan Implementation Committee thinks we ought to be going in this direction instead of these. So at least get that point on the table. And next week is going to be an open meeting, but no public participation. So I'm the only conduit for the time being, at least, into that discussion.
What's an open meeting with no
The
Just
public,
go and
it's an
stare at
open
them.
meeting. The public can attend, but there will be no public comment.
Ooh.
So it's
Sounds
not a public
interesting.
session, it's a planning session for the select board. Which is
Oh,
what we,
okay. I see
which
what
is
you
what we
mean.
Last year, it was pretty good.
yeah,
I
we
thought
did
so.
it last year, same thing last year, so.
Yeah.
Limited time, lots to do, so we're not looking for, a lot of public debate at this point. People will have an opportunity to weigh in as we go along. So anyway, I think
Sam,
that's,
can we send you anything, if we think of it after this meeting?
sure, yeah, I'm happy to take any input from anybody on any topic. So again, I think that's two useful perspectives on it, and I'm sure there are others. So if anybody actually has other thoughts or feel free to follow up with me between now and next Tuesday, and I'm happy to, again, put other things on the table for discussion. But I'm almost less concerned about, having the perfect set of things to focus on versus at least 3 or 4 pretty good things that people can get behind and push. I'd rather get something, maybe not the perfect goal done, but with all our focus, but I'd rather have, 3 or 4 things that we can do a reasonably good job on, as opposed to 20 that we make a small step forward with, or 1 that we do a reasonably good job, but we ignore all the others, because I think there are too many things that are important here.
Mhm.
Are there any big ones that people suggest that are not on either of these lists that we ought to try to push harder on?
I feel like your lists are pretty well aligned with like what I would have expected also. I can't really think of anything additional.
Okay.
Um,
And again, not that the other, 97 or whatever aren't good things to
Yeah.
do, but
Right.
this seems to be where the momentum is for focus and investment over the next FY24 here. But stay tuned, it may change next week.
Yeah. Okay, so there's nothing that you need from this committee in advance of your goal setting meeting. If we have anything additional, we can just reach out and contact. You
Sure,
would-
and again, if folks want to put other ideas on the table here, I'm more than happy to listen. So
Well, will your flyover make it?
I doubt it. Too expensive. And too many moving parts with MassDOT.
Yeah.
So flyover, but I'm still cautiously optimistic for my pedestrian crossover.
Yeah.
Where would this be located?
Well, there are 2 possibilities. One is Parkerville and one is Oak Hill Central Street.
So flying over the causeway there?
Over Route
flying
9.
over Route 9,
Oh,
the pedestrian overpass.
Like a huge pedestrian bridge.
Yep. Well, Oak Hill is actually interesting topographically there, because you come down the hill, you wouldn't have to build a long stair up there, as a matter of fact, on the south side at least. So, and I mean,
Where
there's
is
one-
Oak Hill?
Oak Hill Central Street. Mobile
if-
station,
If you,
Walgreens.
At the
if you cross
pharmacy.
Yeah, where the playground is, the Fayetteville playground, across from the, what is the old house used to be, the,
Fayetteville Hall and
that's now,
Walgreens on Route 9 up there.
It's Walgreens, yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, there's one that is functionally the same over at Framingham State University and a
Yeah.
little further east there, which is a nice one.
Yeah.
So anyway, that is a long shot. On the other hand, if you don't ask, it's not going to happen. And we talked the other evening with our grants coordinator consultant, who said there's a fair amount of federal money out there for a variety of things. So who knows?
I'm just curious, the causeways, there are 2 causeways that come from Route 9 up to the town
Right.
center. Is it possible to provide a sidewalk on either one of those?
Well, there are 5 of them actually, and that's been on my list for a long time.
Okay,
A lot of towns actually have those pedestrian walkways those are MWRA reservoirs, so they don't want you to drive pilings into the reservoir. On the other hand, you can do a cantilevered structure. So you drive the piling into the side of the roadbed there and
Mhm.
cantilever about a 10-foot wide. Often they do boardwalks along there and put chain link fence on the other side so people can't jump in the reservoir. But a lot of places have those kind of things. It is engineering wise fairly easy to do. They also actually sell precast concrete block kind of things, large ones that you can drop in beside the roadway and build a walkway on top of those. So people do them in a variety of ways, but it's not inexpensive. But again, there's a lot of money, state and federal, for connecting parts of town. And so again, it's not unheard of to get money for these kind of things, but
That would be
gotta work at it.
awesome.
gotta
I
work
mean,
at it.
I came in toward the end of the master plan process, and I mean, connecting the north and south side of town came through loud and clear. I just think this is it would really change the town, really
Yeah.
connect us, which is
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And-
really
and
big goal.
East-west is important too, because there is a MassDOT TIP project, Transportation Improvement Program prospect, for repaving, I guess it's Marlborough Road, Framingham Road, from the Marlborough line all the way over to the causeway. And it would be wonderful to actually get something that you could across the causeway. And Cat, I think, would be ecstatic to get that connection with the trail network that people could actually get from west to east.
Yeah, it would be.
that would be fantastic, yeah.
So anyway, so again, these are, pie in the sky kind of things. On the other hand, people get them done.
You
And-
say, if you don't
why
ask, you
not?
don't get.
And we have a new DPW superintendent who I think is reasonably well connected with MassDOT District 3 guys, which we're in District 3. So who knows? Maybe he needs to take the District 3 director.
Has
Dr.
he
Hodge.
started his position, or is that in July?
July 24th, I think, he had to give 90 days notice to his current employer.
Please don't jinx this one, Sam.
Hey, I didn't jinx the last one. I wasn't the jinx there.
Okay,
He has his hands full. He's now in Spencer. I don't know if you've seen the news. That's where that church went up in flames.
oh, wow.
Fantastic pictures there. Huge steeple. News coverage, did tumble. So,
Oh,
crazy.
Mm.
well,
Anyway, so again, not easy thing to do. On the other hand, I think both north, south, and east, west links there so people can get through town would be a huge thing in terms of the community connectedness and sense of community kind of stuff. I think all that stuff is hugely valuable.
yeah, it hits a lot, I think, going back to Judith's connectivity, community, and what was your other one, Judith?
I
Capacity?
called it capacity, which is really what Sam was saying about
Capacity.
money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we're actually making some progress. We've got this pavement management system that is now in process of implementation. And the consultants actually gave us a proposal for a sidewalk assessment as part of that. And so that's more money, and not clear we're going to be able to fund it, but at least that would be another good piece of data to be able to plan better around sidewalk both construction and maintenance. And we've got, again, $700,000 now for sidewalk construction that the Capital Improvement Planning Committee is trying to prioritize. So there's going to be a lot of sidewalk development, not as much as we'd like, but at least it's a good chunk of money from the ARPA money, which is a great source.
Sam, when do you think the, I think there's a goal for, is there a goal to set up a bicycle
committee,
lanes
yeah.
or bike lane committee or something like that?
A bicycle committee.
Bicycle
It's
committee,
been discussed for years.
yeah.
I don't sense that there's a huge amount of enthusiasm on the select board for it. In fact, we've been trying to cut down on the number of committees. So I don't know what the future for that one is, but it's on the list at least. So, and we have discussed it a couple of times, but we don't have anybody out there, leading the charge on that one specifically. Not that it's not a good idea, but people have other priorities. So
Yeah. Okay.
But we'll make some progress on bike lanes, particularly if we get that Framingham to Marlborough piece done. If MassDOT does it, they typically include bike lanes on those roads, which will be a great thing.
Does the town have a map of where we want the bike lanes, or is that what the bicycle committee was going to do?
We don't have a map of that, as far as I know. And
That
would
seems
be a
like
good
that would be a
job
nice
the
thing
bike-
for a consultant if we could get
bike
some money.
committee.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Any priorities we've missed here or need to be added to the list or removed, I guess, is the big question.
I guess it's incumbent on me to pipe up. What about ADA? We have the self-assessment, and
Right.
there's a whole bunch of things on that. I guess.
That's on my list, Will.
Okay,
That's
good.
under
All right.
accessibility,
Accessibility and
inclusion.
connectivity.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right.
And the consultants, the sidewalk consultant proposal actually includes evaluating curb cuts and sidewalk accessibility for ADA compliance.
Okay, good.
I don't know that we're going to get that funded, but that's at least the first step in the process, is a proposal that take a look at it and get a database of what's out there, which we don't have now.
Okay.
So these bullet points and lists, your three things, Judith, are these sort of themes that when we get together with planning board and select board and master plan implementation, that we want to kind of present it in terms of these themes? So we do some work around that over the next couple of weeks also?
I mean, I actually think that, I mean, this was just to get our conversation started. I actually like Sam's 4 topics. I mean,
Maybe some combination, but I think that what you're suggesting, Debbie, is if we had some sort of at least starting point as a combination of these things, I think that would be a great outline for discussion for both planning board and select board.
Yeah.
I could take it back. In fact, what I would like to do is to take this conversation back as input to the select board planning meeting next week. So here's what the Master Plan Implementation Committee is talking about, at least not final, but here's what the conversation is about, and see if I can steer it in this direction, sort of. And Debbie, you could do it to the planning board as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And everybody may have different views when you do that. On the other hand, I think it's helpful to find out what people are thinking about. If you don't ask them, you're not going to know. Much better if we know sooner that there is support or no support for certain things. Let's not waste our energy on something that's not going to get supported.
Yeah. Judith, would you like to take the action of just taking Sam's bullets? Sounds like maybe Sam's 4 bullet points, but then adding in some other color from your, some of those recommendations that you've pulled in that might support his bullets or something combination like
it
that.
depends when you need it by, because I'm not back. I'm away this weekend, so the earliest I could do it would be maybe on Monday. I can have a go, but I wouldn't be able to get anything done started till Monday.
No, that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are
Um,
you looking for? The goals mapped against those topics, Sam?
Or just, I guess, as Debbie was suggesting, maybe to fill in under those bullet points, some of the flesh on your list there, to give some more examples of things.
Oh,
Just
okay. So my list is
combining.
the goal. I mean, my list is the specific goals.
More specific, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll have a go at that on Monday.
Yeah, and I think that's reasonably straightforward, Judith, so I wouldn't, spend a huge amount of time on it. I think they fit pretty well. So,
and then should we, how do you do this, Sam? How do we reach out and you think we might be ready to put it on the agenda to try to get a joint meeting between the committees, the boards?
I think you could ask, certainly. I think the select board has a meeting on the 20th, I think, that is a fairly full agenda. So this would be a special meeting, which, is not trivial to get, but I think asking for it is the first step. So just looking at the calendar, and frankly, it doesn't have to be on Tuesday nights or whatever. So we're planning a meeting next week. So the week of the 19th, I don't know, is the planning board meeting on the 19th? Debbie, do you know? I can't remember.
Let me just see. No, we are the 12th and then the week after, the 12th and the 26th. We
Okay.
don't have a meeting that week for planning.
So, I mean, again, the first step is to ask, and I would say, later the week of the 19th or the week of the 26th, and send a message to Andrew Dennington saying, can you get this on the agenda, and talk to Mimi about getting it on the planning board agenda,
Okay,
and probably a special meeting, I would think, which shouldn't last for, 4 hours or whatever. I think it's a relatively quick,
hope not.
just to see if we're aligned. And if the answer is, wow, we're really far apart, you don't beat it to death. You go back and think about it some more and try again.
Okay,
Hey, Judith, it would be helpful. I'd be glad to take an initial whack at the combination there and send it to you.
Okay, that would be great,
to
Sam.
use.
That would be
Can
great.
Can you
Yeah.
send me a copy of yours, or is that in an email that you sent to
I
everybody?
just sent you I just sent this to everybody by email. Yeah.
Good, thanks, okay. Good.
hey, sounds like a plan. Is there anything else on that topic? Thanks for all the work you guys have done.
Thank you.
So going on to the next topic for discussion, future topics. One thing that was on my mind was as the town website has been integrated into this new website, I started to take a poke around because I wanted to see what came over and what didn't come over. Aside from the master plan implementation, in the names that need to be updated, et cetera, the master plan, I believe the master plan committee is still up there, but says it's dissolved because all of the documents are in there. But when you open that, I think you get there's something that says, we're working on the 2008 master plan. So there's some old language somewhere, and I just didn't know if that's something that so I guess my first question is, do we oh good, thanks for bringing that up. If you go on
So they didn't do however this was migrated over, they didn't follow what I had agreed with Karina.
okay, I thought you had already started this process.
So that what we agreed was, let me start with this. So if you go to the Master Plan Implementation Committee, the Master Plan Implementation Committee is the active committee, and it has the master plan, the current master plan up here, So a link to the current master plan,
Mhm.
right? And it also has a link back to the master plan committee.
Okay. And if you click
Okay.
on that one appears really outdated. It's that
Well,
says,
it's the reason
says-
that we wanted to keep it was because otherwise we have to go through and basically rebuild the master plan to put all of these links back.
All the documents and links, yeah.
Because the
Can't it say
document,
at the top, this committee is no longer active? I mean, in big letters, like, where does it say it's not active?
yeah,
it?
that's what it should do, is it
Yeah.
should say, you
Is it-
know,
Yeah,
the master plan committee is
Has completed
This-
its work.
this
And-
overview should be updated.
Yeah.
yes, in,
but you-
if, yeah,
You say, but a message there should basically say Master Plan Committee has completed its work and the plan is now finished and approved. And this website is provided for reference to the documents that were used during the master
Right.
planning process.
Okay,
Something
Which
a
was-
message like that.
right, which is so the master plan implementation committee was intended to be where you go, and then there's a reference to the master plan committee
Right,
inside the master plan.
right.
It
Yep.
shouldn't appear, there shouldn't be a reference on this
On the
Agreed.
first
index.
page. It should be a subset of the master plan implementation committee.
Agreed.
And actually, the master plan implementation committee, what we agreed was that would sit under the planning board.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's kind of been, I mean, and I don't have strong feelings if they want to keep it as on the top page, but the
Oh, I
other
think
thing,
I have a strong opinion. It should be kept on the top page and nested under under planning, because that long list should be every committee in town that's active. in my
Right.
opinion. But I
Mhm.
like that it should be also listed under planning board, so it's just in two different locations.
right,
Yeah.
Chad, are you suggesting under planning board on the full committee list page or under the planning board as a tab off the planning board website?
Well, first is that long list of committees in ABC order should have master plan implementation committee, because it's an
Right.
active committee. That's
Only.
one,
yeah.
right. The
but
way
it
it's
shouldn't have master plan. Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, just as you said, it should also be linked under planning, because
So-
it's
yeah.
a planning board
So when
subcommittee.
you click on planning board, then it would show up as on the left-hand pane over there.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
And I
yeah, go
I
ahead,
got a
Sam.
suggestion for how that might be pursued, Judith. I think that Jay Montillo has an infinite list of things he's working on the website thing. So I think the best route to get this done is maybe through Karina. She sits next door to him. And so if, I don't know, Judith, you might reinforce with Karina, hey, this is what we agreed to. This didn't happen. Here's what needs to be done. Can you please follow up with Jay and remind him that that was the deal? And then nudge him weekly.
I'm curious, is anyone in the planning board, some departments have a key person, like conservation has Superstar Melissa,
Yep.
who can do web changes, and
Yeah, the person that
Recreation has Superstar Tim, who can do.
Colleen
does
should be
planning
able-
board have anybody?
it's Colleen. It's Colleen, and Colleen actually made changes on the previous website
Okay,
Good.
to
Yeah.
reflect what we just agreed.
yeah,
So-
that way it won't be all Jay's issue, and it helps him.
Assuming that she can, yeah,
I
That's
think
a,
they do have some permissions now. I thought that was part of, I mean,
That's the
I know
plan.
Colleen was looking at things yesterday, so we can reach out with Colleen.
Even better. But again, they're right there next door to Jay. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a great opportunity to sort of keep
Uh,
it moving
Hey,
independently.
Sam, one question. Is there anybody that's, keeping a list of the infinite things that Jay has to do and scheduling when they're going to get done, or at least prioritizing them?
Well, I
Don't know.
think Jay would do that,
Yeah,
right?
that's Jay's. job.
Well,
I don't
but,
know that he
you know,
does all this.
The problem I would have is that I hear many different people asking for changes through many different channels.
Yep.
And I don't understand. I mean, I also, having talked to Jay at the last Public Accessibility Committee, he says he's putting in a lot of overtime. And if I'm not mistaken, we hired Hassan to help Jay before the website was upgraded. So how is he getting his normal work done?
Simple answer is, I don't know.
Superstar.
So,
Right.
well, now wait a minute. Who should be helping him? Who should be
Well,
helping to manage his time?
Mark.
Because yeah,
you
well,
report to me.
that's what I thought, and that was
Yep.
the answer I thought. And I guess the question I would have is, I'm very concerned that Jay's going to come off as the guy who's not getting his job done, when in reality his job has been vastly expanded, and
Right.
it's very difficult for me to understand all of the different changes that are needed.
Yep.
Because I've gotten a list from Tim Litt that I'm going to be going through is in preparation for the Public Accessibility Committee meeting.
Right. Yep.
And, that's more things. And, so I would very much, my suggestion would be, Sam, that there should be some type of open process for getting things onto the list and for that list being prioritized and published.
Good suggestion, and that's the way I would manage it. Unfortunately, I'm not managing it, and I've made suggestions around that process, and Mark is in the chain of command there. So
Okay.
that's who I need to push on, as I have done and will continue to do. But I think many people agree that that's not been and probably is not going to be a perfect process, unfortunately, which is frustrating. So,
Right.
But I don't have a good answer for it.
Okay.
But Colleen, I think, is the right button to push there, certainly for this stuff.
Great. So I've got that. Reach out to planning department and request changes to the webpage.
Judith, do you want me to do that, or with Colleen, or did you already start that?
I
feel like
can
there's a
go
lot
back.
on- Yeah.
I can talk to Colleen because she and I spent quite a lot of time earlier in the year kind of moving around what we originally had. I just need to go back to my notes, and because we did at one point also say we wanted a reference to the 2008 master plan, and that seems to have disappeared altogether.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see that too, right?
Yeah, that was originally under the planning board, but let me go back to Colleen and see what's happened here. So
Okay, I know she was looking at things last week when I stopped in. So the timing is, they're all looking at it, trying to figure out where everything went. So, okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many fans we have out there, but I mean, at some point, I think one of the things I'd like to do is just, keep the, just keep the momentum going on master plan, so that it's in front of people, so that they know where their goals are, so that they know how to find it, so that they are reminded that we're a committee. I mean, we had that meeting where the EDC coordinator, dropped in and, chatted with us. Hopefully there are people out there that are, going to hear more about the master plan as we start digging into goals and things like that, and they'll say, let me have a copy of that. Where can I find that? So just think we need to make it as easy as possible. Well, thank you for that discussion on the website. I just put this topic, future topics, just to see what we might want to talk about next. Not, priorities or meetings that we're going to have, the joint meeting that we're going to be planning. But is there anything else that you guys want to talk about? For example, we started, our master plan implementation by sort of giving each other the member reports and going through what all of our boards and committees and departments were doing. Do we want to, get back to that? Versus just updating our reports and chatting about a couple of the things that stand out. I kind of wanted just to hear from you about, topics that we want to discuss in the future.
I mean, I like updates of significant events. I don't think we need to go through blow by blow everything that's going on. So, I mean, my theory is that, significant progress pieces and significant roadblocks, issues that we need to figure out how to deal with, sort of high level comments, and then focus on things that we think we can do something about if there's an issue we need to deal with.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. How about you, Will?
No, that sounds good.
Yeah.
So I mean, topics will come up. I guess I'm hard pressed to think of, what's going to be a concern a month from now or whatever. I'm sure there will be several things, but I can't predict.
There'll be
either.
things, especially after your meetings.
Other than we need money, that will be the continual.
Yeah.
You know, it might be really a nice idea because so much of this goes on and nobody ever knows, and I know that the town's distribution list got completely wiped out, so we don't have the thousands of names that might have signed up for e-alerts previously. However, it's being rebuilt. What if major accomplishments are announced with the town alert system in an email that goes out to everyone who signed up for that, to kind of congratulate the committees, boards, and commissions that are doing this good work as a way of not only giving them kudos for doing that work, but letting the people in town know that these major accomplishments are happening. Otherwise, they don't really get to be known unless you're in the circle.
Mhm. That's a good idea.
And the liaison could be responsible for making that happen by just connecting with Vanessa or Katie, whoever's responsible for town e-alerts.
Or major accomplishments generally,
Mhm.
or things that are on the horizon. I mean, that's actually something the select board has talked about for at least the years I've been on the board and not done much about. So I think there are towns, for example, Wellesley, I lived in Wellesley before here, and they do a newsletter periodically for what's going on in town. And I think you're right, Kat. I mean, there's a lot of things that are good that are happening that 99% of the world doesn't know about. Or
Mhm.
things that are on the plan to happen, like the sidewalk project, for example. I think that's big news. We're going to
Big
spend
news.
$750,000 on sidewalks around town, building new sidewalks to connect some of the existing networks, et cetera. And I think that's something that people ought to be aware of and appreciate. So, and
And do you mean they put a newsletter like sort of like as a link or something on the website, maybe, or on the
Paper.
banner page or something?
paper, like a 8.5 by 11 fold out booklet, like 4 pages with 2 tabloid sized pages folded in the middle and
Oh
fold it
boy,
in half
how much
and
is that?
distribute it to all the people in town.
That's
So
expensive.
through the
Oh,
post
wow.
office. So and periodically, and they actually do that. The advisory committee sends out the report before town meeting. DPW has a monthly update that they send out to all the street addresses in town. So I mean, that's not inexpensive, but that really does let people know what's going on. And
It would be
but
great if we could get every email address in town on a list. So we can do a lot of this
well,
electronically.
town clerk asks, but many people don't provide it.
Yeah, it's because we don't get so much spam. Nobody
I want to
wants.
get on a spam list. That's right.
Yeah.
So, but again, they've got enough. I mean, if we had, 500, 1,000 or whatever email addresses, I mean, that could get to a large portion of the households. Because there are only 3,500, 3,700 households in town. So if you had 1,000 or 2,000, you're getting to most of them. So, but again, I think that's a great suggestion. And that's one thing I think that the select board is going to be talking about next week is better communication with the public. So maybe there will be something that happens there we can piggyback on. But we got a lot to say.
There should be a huge campaign in town about trying to get everybody's email address. I think that should be a huge, because everyone complains, you hear about it on Southborough Share and Care page
Yeah.
about, oh, I don't know what's going on. I never hear what's going on. No one's telling me what's going on.
Yep.
But it's kind of, how do we, the only way to get them to know is to get them to share their contact information.
But
their email.
even if you tell them, they'll still claim they never knew about it.
I know. But like, what if we spent 3 months blasting every avenue? Sign up, sign up, sign up.
Mm.
Would it work?
Don't know, worth the effort. I think there's some
It is
people
worth the effort.
who aren't going to do it for whatever reason.
Hmm.
And some people don't have an email account. Not many nowadays.
I don't know about those people.
Wait a minute. Hey, I don't have a cell phone. You're getting close to the.
No, that's okay. You don't have to have a cell phone, but you have to have an email.
And I don't really give out my personal email address too easily. So,
Okay.
but anyway, that's again, communication I think is a huge opportunity, and we haven't done a good job as a town with that. And we ought to piggyback on whatever the town comes up with there. I think for sure, because
Yeah.
we got an important message to communicate to people.
Mhm.
Yeah, like what's going on. And I think this committee is in a perfect spot to be able to communicate that kind of thing.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, but we're one of the few really cross-cutting organizations in town. We've got a piece of everything that goes on in the master plan.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and the only other group is the finance teams. They got their hand in every department,
Oh, yeah.
but it's
Okay.
unusual.
All right. Anything else? Anybody want to talk about anything else for just future topics? So, yeah, as you think of things, we'll set our next, meeting, and not sure about agenda topics for next meeting, but obviously we've got, I think we're going to try to get the joint meeting, but, I just try to set a standard agenda, but if there's anything that you want to see, any particular item, even I think we discussed if there's a committee that has an issue, wants to come talk to us. This is the point, I think, where, each of our boards and committees now are living with their goals and recommendations. And, what we found out from at least EDC coordinator coming forward was that, there might be some wording that might not be optimal, or they're kind of tripping over it a little bit and saying, gee, can we reword this? I expect over the next 6 months, we're probably going to see some committee or another come to us and ask about, changing. Just to update everybody, Judith and I did meet with the EDC coordinator, Claire Reynolds, as a follow-up to a much earlier time when she came to our committee and had some questions about, sort of the more difficult goals, I would say, the ones that are really cross-functional. Judith set her straight. She had a sort of an outdated version. So now she is up to date with what, what the EDC goals are. But for example, EDC still has a fair number that are cross-functional. And I think that that's where we're going to need to, I'm the liaison for EDC, but I think we're going to need to, maybe think about how do we help them. Sometimes it's just even reaching out to the other, other boards and committees about moving something forward. I don't know if you guys have experienced that with any of your committees. I think that's where we're going to see some activity in the next 6 months.
Yep.
I mean, maybe that, Debbie, maybe that would be something to add into the email that goes out with the talking points notes, which is, about saying, emphasizing that the whole point of the primary responsibility is to get stuff done. Because what we found when we did the review of the 2008 plan was one of the key reasons that things hadn't got done was because there were too many people that supposedly had responsibility for a recommendation. And it, the classic, when things go well, everyone goes, oh, go us. And then when things don't happen, everyone was like, oh no, it's not my problem, it's their problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we went to this primary responsibility. But it does mean that it puts emphasis on the primary responsibility group to then reach out to others that they need support from or they're dependent on. So maybe we can just include something in that talking point email that references that and say, if you would like help thinking through this, doing that coordination. I think we just have to be super careful that we don't end up being the people that are doing the coordinating, because that was, very much something we said we didn't want to do. It's got to be the people that had the recommendation.
Right. And Judith, a related point there you might point out to people is that by their very nature, a huge portion of the things we're trying to get done involve multiple groups here.
Yeah.
So there are very few of these things that any one group can do by itself, as a matter of fact. So coordination is key. And I think we're sort of the glue that tries to link those things together in some ways. But, and again, I think in addition to focusing on getting things done, which is always useful, I think getting the high priority things done that the again, planning board, select board determine are relatively high priority. And those, I think, are worth focus from, many groups. And so it's a combination of progress and priorities, progress on the higher priority elements.
Mhm.
That's good. Yeah. Thanks for that, Sam. Okay, are we ready to move on? Anybody have anything else? So the next topic is approval of the minutes from May 5th, but Kat mentioned she's still working on them. And that's
What
okay.
I can, what I can do is, so part of well, I ran out of time, but this conversation has been wonderful because it was very streamlined and kind of within the topic. Sometimes our conversations go from A to Z across the board, and they're really hard to follow.
I'm learning, Kat.
No, it's not you, it's not you, it's us. We have brainstorms, we have great ideas, and they come together, and then so I struggled last meeting really trying to pull some of that together. And so what I think I'm going to do is just try to summarize at high level and say discussion happened on this, and not try to I get stuck in the weeds sometimes. So I think I got stuck in the weeds. So what I can do is I can circulate, well, I guess, how does this work? I can circulate a draft minutes, and we can submit draft minutes to the clerk's office so that we don't have that email that says we're delinquent. Nobody wants that email on their, page. So, but does the committee need to see the draft minutes before I do that, or do I just?
I'd send it to everybody, including the clerk, as a draft. And then I think individuals can provide feedback directly back to you, not to everybody. And you can synthesize that, and we can vote on it at the next meeting.
So I'll circulate minutes to committee and to clerk's office, letting the clerk's office know these are to be submitted as draft
Yeah,
until.
put a draft watermark on it.
Yeah, they currently have it. Okay,
Okay.
That works.
okay.
Right,
And then
thank
Debbie,
you.
that thing I told you before I started, I'm having second thoughts.
Okay.
So maybe if you're comfortable with me hanging on to that for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And does anybody have anything else? I also feel strongly to have public comment. I did put it at the end. And that back to your point, Kat, I think when I had public comment at the beginning, that's where we had our EDC coordinator come in, and it kind of took me off guard, and I'm new at this role as being the chair also. So I've put public comment at the end, but I don't think we have any fans tonight.
So
We
busy.
don't.
We
And
managed to
I'm
take
just
them.
curious, should public comment go at the end or the beginning? Because if
I don't
someone's joining us, don't they join at the beginning? Because having them sit through a long meet, I'm sensitive to that. So I'm just, what's the recommendation?
I'm sensitive to that too. Yeah.
I'd do it at the beginning, but I'd also limit it to, no more than 5 minutes or some reasonable number. And again, it ought to be something that's not on the agenda. That's the way many boards do it.
Yeah, and I'm a little more aware now too, in that particular case, there was some questions from EDC, so it really was a long conversation, and it probably should have been something that we schedule. And,
Right.
I think we can do something like that in the future if they want to come back.
So, and again, if somebody has a comment about something that's on the agenda and we're discussing, again, the chair has the discretion to say, okay, we'll entertain audience comments, and again, keep it to a brief comment to keep the process going. But
And, I'm very supportive and inclusive of anyone's comments, and, I understand we have to be sensitive to time, but I don't think we'll get into the situation that the Board of Selectmen, the select board get into sometimes. Because it takes what it takes for time,
Yep.
but I didn't want my comment to reflect the length of time of discussion. It was more like, maybe I like it at the beginning too. If people were going to come, they would probably come.
yeah, don't make them wait. Yeah.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah.
And I mean, we have, you as the chair have the authority to move things around on the agenda without issue, right? So if we saw that we had a visitor,
Yep.
it could be, oh, I'm going to go ahead and move this up, right? We could be flexible, right?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, good. No, that's right. I forgot about that too.
Yeah, you're in charge.
Oh, yeah.
The power.
So do we want to set our next meeting or try to first get a date for the joint meeting and then work on the next meeting after that?
Let's see what we can do for the joint meeting.
Okay,
That's the higher priority one here.
And in the meantime, so if the planning, we need to be working on our Q2 people, our is it
Three.
Q?
Q2 reports.
Yeah. So our Q2 committees, so we should plan to do that as liaisons, get on calendars of our second wave of committees,
Yep.
second tier or something. Because when will the next planning board update happen? If they only want it twice a year, is that gonna happen in December now?
I think it's gonna, I think we worked this out. I think it's gonna be September. I think we're on for like April and
Oh, okay,
or October then or something.
okay.
I mean, we can, I'm sure there's flexibility in there. I think we might have to take a look at our reports and when our report is going to come in.
Okay.
Future topics, Sam, I thought that you mentioned you had an idea, suggestion for the what the report deliverable might look like for the planning board. I think, did you mention that? Something, you know, and as you knew in coming to the team and you saw the big Excel spreadsheet, I thought one of your comments was that in the future, you thought you might have some, you know, some ideas for like more concise
A way to
report.
display some of that, yeah, in terms of thinking about dimensions as far as, you know, degree of difficulty or time required to get things done, et cetera, to lay the tasks out in ways that are easier to see on one page versus, you know, 200-line spreadsheet kind of thing. But I really haven't done any more on that. I mean, I think there are ways to do that, but I've not.
And I didn't really get too much
time.
feedback from the planning board, although I'd be happy to talk to the chair or to get her ideas also, but we have time. So it falls in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
And we, you know, we'll see each of our committees before that.
I'll circle
So-
back to that at some point here then.
Okay, is there anything else? Do I have
Yeah, one of my takeaways is to see if I can find my townhouse key. I know it's out there somewhere, but
You're gonna
I've-
get banned if you lost that key.
I've reorganized my office and I think it got placed somewhere else in the move. So we'll
Does
find-
all the select board members get a key?
I believe so.
Oh, a key and a
Ooh.
stipend.
But we don't get a key to the vault. That's the other thing that we don't get. So it probably
Um,
doesn't work. I've never used it. I got it like 5 years ago now, 4 years ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
maybe they've changed the locks.
And I like this virtual meeting. I think when we get together as joint committee, joint board meetings, I'm sure it's going to be in person, maybe hybrid, we'll see. But I have, you know, some recommendations coming in that I think we do pretty well on these virtual meetings. So I don't know if you guys want to continue with them, but we can also work that out at a future time. I think it's convenient for everybody.
I like
I-
them.
I can go either way.
I like them too.
I'm okay once in a while getting together and seeing your faces.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
move.
Second,
Second. Third.
Roll call, vote, Kat,
Yes.
Will,
yes.
Judith,
Yes.
Sam,
Yes.
and Debbie, yes. Thank
Great.
you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye all.
Karen, see you soon.